Hello everyone and welcome to the third week of these video introductions to essay structure. So as you guys are already aware, your third and final essay for this session is to write a compare-contrast between your identity and your worldview and that of either another person or another community. So here we have our videos just kind of going over my basic kind of expectations of how I want you to approach the organization of this paper. So first of all, I just wanted to begin with the question, why compare, and just sort of go over the reasons behind why I've created a prompt like this for the class. We've kind of already talked through this a little bit about our trajectory and this notion that I have of developing and expanding your awareness of your identity and what that means exactly throughout the semester. So you started with self-analysis, you got into the analysis of others, and now you're going back and forth between the two with this more complex structure. The two kind of goals or missions that I have there are, first of all, this idea that self-awareness stems from exploring your identity in conversation with others, that the more that you're looking at yourself as a part of a bigger picture in society, the more complexity you can have in understanding yourself. And then the second is what I say here as an expansion of the barriers, or should I say maybe a pushing further of the barriers of cultural mythology, that having a conversation between yourself and your understanding of life and the world, um, along with another person or community, is going to push back your cultural mythology barriers so that you can have a broader understanding and a more complex self-awareness and world awareness as well. So, another thing here, just continue with the idea of why I'm asking you to do research on something like this. Is very similar to what you were doing previously, but there's just a couple of different things that make this a little more complex as well. First of all, there's a big goal to investigate cultural topics in this class, so that's definitely something that should be motivating you when you're choosing your topic. And then also to explore the perspective of another and consider how it interacts with your own point of view. So it's really important for this particular assignment that you don't choose someone or some community that you totally agree with, or someone or some community that you totally disagree with, because then you're not going to be able to have that back and forth or the complexity that we're looking for. I really want you to be able to think about the overlap, and be very direct in articulating to us, where is it that you're totally on board with this person or community, and what does it mean that you have a little bit of difference as well. So the overall structure I have laid out here. As you can see, it's very similar to what we've been working on. We've kind of got a pattern going here. You've got your intro with the creative context and thesis, and then you've got your body, which is a little more complex, but basically, a pretty organized structure that I'll go over a little later. And then, of course, we're going to be ending with the conclusion, and as usual, it should be focused on a bigger picture. So let's just begin by talking a little bit about my expectations for the beginning of your introduction. As I said here, you already know how this goes. We've been talking through creative context, so I just have the main statement here. Find a unique and engaging way to establish the main comparison and your invested interest. And before I get to the thesis, let's just look at the model student essay I have, which I'm going to bring up a little bit later. But as you can see here in the model that I've posted on the website that I created myself this time, it just begins by starting with a quote, and all I'm doing here is kind of contextualizing this idea of vernacular or dialect that I find kind of has an interesting connection and disconnection between me and Zadie Smith. So I begin by actually contextualizing with a look at vernacular through former President Obama. And so I'm giving a little bit of a source's insight there. And then after that, it just goes into kind of a broader cultural analysis that has to do with the idea of the vernacularization of the English language as I describe it. And then after that, I get into kind of setting up this person very briefly that I'm going to compare myself to, and that gets me to the thesis. So you can definitely look at this on your own time. The main thing for me with the introduction It's just that you're not giving us already too much information on what that person is about or what that community is about. It's more just your creative hook. It's getting us thinking about the topic in an engaging way. Do you begin with a personal narrative? Do you begin with a series of questions? So you're choosing an intentional strategy that's just helping us to start thinking about the context you're establishing and then transitioning into who that person is. And there we go, we get your thesis. So in the next video, we'll be going over the expectations for the thesis. I will speak with you in a moment.